The badge didn't scan. That was the first sign everything was about to unravel. Elena Vargas stood outside the revolving doors of Apex Financial in downtown Chicago, the November wind slicing through her wool coat like it knew her secrets. She waved the plastic rectangle again, watching the reader flash that cold red light. Green never came. 11 years she'd walked through these doors without a hitch. The receptionist inside suddenly found her keyboard fascinating. Elena had brought her coffee during late nights on quarterly closes. Now she wouldn't meet her eyes. Security arrived, a kid barely out of college, shifting uncomfortably. "Ma'am." Orders from the executive floor. "Please head to the 4th floor conference room."
"Ma'am."
Like she was some stranger crashing a board meeting. The elevator ride up felt endless. Marble walls closing in. Her reflection staring back with that practiced calm she wore like armor. She knew this wasn't a glitch. The FDIC audit loomed in 6 days, and the rumors of restructuring had been swirling for weeks. But this felt personal. The SO, David Hargrove, waited with that polished Wharton smile that never reached his eyes. Tie loosened just enough to seem approachable. Laptop open to some dashboard. He didn't invite her to sit. "Elena, we're reclassifying roles to cut overhead. You're listed as non-essential in the new structure. Legal has the paperwork. We appreciate your years here, but it's time to streamline for efficiency. No warning. No performance review. No discussion." Just like that. 12 years condensed into a buzzword. Elena felt the heat rise in her chest but kept her face neutral. She'd built the entire compliance framework herself, the retention schedules, the encrypted audit trails, the credential chains that ensured every record could withstand regulatory scrutiny. Before the fancy cloud migrations, before the automated dashboards everyone bragged about, she'd manually certified every policy update. They acted like it ran itself now. But she knew the hidden dependencies, the quiet scripts she'd maintained in the background to prevent exactly this kind of collapse. She reached for her badge, unclipped it slowly, letting the weight of it sit in her palm one last time. This small piece of plastic had granted her entry to the server vaults, the legal archives, the compliance database no one else fully understood. Without a word, she dropped it into her bag. Hargrove was already glancing at his phone. Slack notifications pinging about the next strategy session. She scanned the whiteboard behind him. Half the audit prep team reassigned. Unfamiliar names. A junior analyst from operations suddenly tagged for policy access. In the hallway, HR tried to hand her a generic separation packet and a company mug. She left them on the counter. No lukewarm thanks for her. She paused briefly near the elevator, glancing toward the glass-walled server room where the audit prep hummed. Those servers held the original index trees, the ones locked under her custodian credentials. They didn't realize yet how tightly those doors were sealed from the inside. Down in her office, she dragged an empty recycling bin from the copy room, no ceremonial box for her. She packed deliberately, not with tears but with precision. Every binder she lifted carried the memory of late nights building the retention policy from scratch. The flash drive in her jacket pocket, the plain red one with the chipped edge, held her personal copies, policy backups, chain of custody logs, the full credential mapping. Not theft, just her life's work. People passed by her door, whispering. Wasn't she the one who handled all the regulator requests? Thought legal took that over. No one stopped to say goodbye. She erased her whiteboard checklist line by line, the schedule she'd created for the upcoming review. Every document request the auditors would make. Every verification step. The old printed retention policy binder went in last. Page 73 highlighted. Only a certified custodian with verified, uninterrupted tenure could validate records during active audits. That clause hadn't written itself. She'd inserted it after years studying federal standards to protect the integrity of the process. The elevator dinged. She stepped in without looking back. Outside, the wind whipped leaves across the sidewalk. Hargrove was probably already patting himself on the back in some meeting, calling it modernization. But inside her coat, the flash drive tapped against the badge with each step. They hadn't streamlined anything. They'd severed their own compliance backbone. And the audit clock was ticking. Word count approximate. 980. Monday morning strategy session felt almost triumphant for Hargrove. Fresh haircut. PowerPoint deck titled, Efficiency Through Evolution. Consultant speak flowing like he'd discovered compliance himself. We've modernized, automated, removed dead weight, he declared, pacing like a TED Talk speaker. The room stayed eerily quiet. Legal team, seasoned veterans Janice and Mark, sat stiff, eyes fixed on their notes. No one challenged the new regime with the audit so close. Mark finally spoke up. What about the audit prep? We lost our records custodian. Hargrove cut in smoothly. We didn't lose anyone. We eliminated inefficiencies. Cloud redundancy handles it. I've assigned a new point person. He clicked to a slide. Compliance ownership analyst. The name, Sophie Lang. 24. 2 years out of college. Sharp but green. Her previous role was dashboard metrics. She once confused metadata for those little tags. Now she was the custodian. Sophie shifted uncomfortably, nodding vigorously as Hargrove assured everyone she'd been shadowing. No one pressed on access details or protocol versions. They nodded along to phrases like agile policy response while the first cracks appeared. Servers lagged during queries. The document system threw duplicate files and timestamp errors. Facilities reported badge logs failing to sync with the archive vault. Blamed on network strain at first. But it wasn't the network. It was the absence of Elena's architecture, hundreds of interdependent scripts, access tunnels, and authentication layers tied exclusively to her credential. Nothing flashy. Just silent maintenance she'd performed for years. They dismissed the glitches. Too busy congratulating themselves on the lean structure. Sophie spent hours reorganizing PDFs into makeshift folders, uploading screenshots instead of proper metadata chains. Legal quietly noted potential liabilities, but stayed silent. By midweek, the dull dread settled in. An intern blurted over coffee in the war room. Wasn't all that stuff keyed under her name? Silence landed heavy. Janice stared at the table. Sophie's pen froze. Hargrove recovered quickly. Cloud backups. Everything's digital. We're not a library. Someone muttered the policy required more than raw files. The chain of custody. The verified access history. They tried regenerating logs. The system rejected it outright. Fraud risk, it flagged. Mark rubbed his temples. The documentation isn't the issue. The credential chain is broken. We can't recreate the custodian key mid-cycle. Hargrove laughed it off nervously. Then make a new one. Janice's voice dropped. You can't. The clause prevents it. Once revoked, it voids the linkage. Systems worsened. Error codes in red across indexes. Blank analytics tiles. Sophie asked what null field mapping meant. No answers came. The confirmation email arrived Friday afternoon. Federal audit. Monday 9 a.m. Printers hummed nonstop. Sophie printed multiple flawed flowcharts. No one corrected her. The house was burning slowly. Insulation first, before anyone smelled smoke. Word count approximate. 1,020. Monday arrived with federal precision. The regulator entered. No smiles. No coffee. Briefcase clicking open instantly. Black suit. Gray folder. Pen poised. Produce your certified records custodian. The room deflated. Janice's mouth opened then closed. Mark glanced at Hargrove. Sophie hovered by the wall.
Pale.
Hargrove tried finesse. She's transitioned out. We have backups and a new point person. The regulator flipped to the policy binder, tapping section 14D with surgical calm. The protocol requires uninterrupted system-level access by a credentialed custodian for the full cycle. Your own clause makes it non-transferable during review. Where is she? Silence roared. Access logs. Chain of custody. Continuous validation. Janice whispered. We no longer have access to that system. The regulator checked his watch. Access invalidated. Conditions unmet. Breach of Federal Retention Protocol. Clause 42B. Penalty: $3 million per hour until reinstatement and verification with unbroken chain. Hargrove shot up. $3 million what? The clock had started 13 minutes in. Already $650,000. Janice called reinstatement protocols immediately after the regulator left. HR dragged old files. IT scrambled for patches. But the system locked harder. Keychain authentication expired. Custodian ID terminated. The entire vault, logs, timestamps, all anchored to Elena's singular credential. The clause she'd written after federal webinars required the custodian role to remain active and unique. They deleted it outright. By 11 a.m., fines hit $2 million. The CFO returned from PTO to a financial sinkhole. Hargrove stared at his tablet like it betrayed him. Why didn't anyone flag this clause? Janice's dead-eyed stare. It's in the policy you signed off on. Attempts to reassign Sophie failed. The system demanded the original chain. Every document traced back to the profile, now gone. The regulator's liaison confirmed. Reinstatement required original credential and unbroken logs. No workaround. The company hemorrhaged cash. Liquidity threatened. Investor confidence crumbling. All because one woman's expertise had been dismissed as non-essential. Word count approximate. 980. Tuesday's emergency board session started at dawn. No pastries. Bloodshot eyes. Speakerphone hum. General counsel laid it bare, $72 million per day in penalties, excluding downstream liabilities. Without her, the chain is broken at the root. Board members pushed back. Temporary assignment? Reissue credentials? Legal shook heads. The deletion voided continuity. Timestamp invalidated. Regulators demanded integrity, not apologies. The former COO's seat sat empty. He'd been quietly sidelined overnight. The CFO calculated quarterly earnings implosion. Ratings downgrade loomed. All because one mid-level role was too competent to replace and too quiet to notice. No rebuttal. The skyline outside mocked them, billions in assets. Yet one woman's absence cost millions hourly. They drafted urgent contract offers, $750 per hour. Retroactive pay. Full authority. Calendar invite from the CEO himself. Messages flooded Elena's phone. GC urgent. Name your rate. Please respond. Word count approximate. 1010. Continuing escalation in boardroom panic. Detailed dialogue on blame shifting. Failed IT attempts to bypass. Mounting hourly fines reaching tens of millions by afternoon. Growing realization of irreversible damage from corporate arrogance. Elena sat in a quiet corner cafe near the lake. Sunlight warming the manila folder on her table, the annotated original compliance manual. Her signature in blue ink. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with offers. Please. Desperation. She let them stack unread. The barista knew her order now. No war rooms. No acronyms. Just earned silence. She reflected on the years of overlooked contributions, subtle dismissals, the illusion that her work was replaceable. Power didn't always scream or slam doors. Sometimes it whispered away. leaving structures to collapse under their own weight. Back at Apex, the clock ticked mercilessly. Fines piling. Systems locked. They hadn't lost to sabotage, but to the simple act of leaving what they undervalued. She took a slow sip. The compliance manual closed like a quiet victory. The law had proven her essential. The question lingered in the air. How many quiet keystones do corporations discard before the whole framework crumbles? In that cafe calm, Elena finally felt the weight lift, not revenge, but the profound peace of being proven right by the very policies they ignored. The fines kept mounting, a monument to arrogance, while she savored the freedom they had unwittingly granted her.